Hello, this is Charlie Thompson, and this is the Köppen Climate Classification How-To video. So the first week, we're just going to go through the basics of the Köppen Climate Classification System and classify climates based on temperature and rainfall. So, Vladimir Köppen, you don't need to know any of this, I just think it's fun. Vladimir Petrovich Köppen, he was a Russian-born German. He was a meteorologist. The Köppen Climate Classification System has two main components. This is one of the strengths of the system, is that it just relies on temperature and rainfall patterns. And by patterns, I mean, when is it warm during the year? When is it cold during the year? Or when is it rainy? Is it rainy in the summertime? Is it rainy in the wintertime? Is it rainy year-round? Or is it dry year-round? So really general, broad characterizations of temperature and rainfall. So Vladimir Köppen divided his climate classification system. He divided them into 5 groups. There's the A, tropical climates, the B, dry climates, the C, mesothermal climates, D, microthermal or snowy forest climates, and E, the polar climates. So these are the 5 basic groups. The tropical climates, the defining characteristic of the tropical climates is that every month is warmer than 18 Celsius. It's about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So the most important criteria for a tropical climate is every month warmer than 18. If it is, congratulations, it's a tropical climate. If not, you got to keep looking. B, the dry climates have permanent moisture deficits, so precip is always less than potet on an annual basis in the dry climates. C are the mesothermal. Meso means middle, thermal means temperature. These are mid-latitude climates. They have 3 months with the average temperature over 10 Celsius, and the winter temperature, the coldest winter month, has to be above freezing. So they have 3 months of summer, and that's what you need for tree growth, and the winter is mild. The coldest winter month is above freezing. Next are the microthermal or snowy forest climates. So these are really interesting. They have a very big temperature range. They have the largest temperature range of any of the climates. They have 3 months with temperatures over 10 Celsius for tree growth, but the winters now are below freezing. So there's many climates, like the tropical, every month is hot, and we haven't seen them yet, but there's polar climates where every month is cold. But the microthermal climates are unique in that they have warm summers and brutal freezing winters. And the only place you're going to find them is where there's a continent at high latitude that's large enough to make that sort of temperature swing between summer and winter. You're never going to see them on the coast, and you're not really going to see them in the southern hemisphere because there's no continent large enough at a high enough latitude to be cold enough in the winter and warm enough in the summer to allow them to be classified as a microthermal or D climate. They're also sometimes called continental climates. I'm beginning to think that might be a better term than microthermal because they're not cold year-round. And then finally, the polar climates. Those are found at high latitudes, polar regions. With the polar climates, every month is below 10 Celsius. So that's pretty easy. The tropical climates, the polar climates, you just look, and if there's 1 month that doesn't meet that criteria, that ain't it, Chief. You got to keep looking. So the Köppen Climate Classification System uses 2 or 3 letters to identify climates. The first letter tells you the general temperature. For example, the A, tropical climates, or the E, polar climates. The second letter tells you about the timing of the rainfall. Is it wet year-round? Is it dry in the summer? Is it dry in the winter? And the third letter, if there is one, so the A climates and the E climates, because they don't have seasons, they don't need to tell you anything else about the temperature, so they only have 2 letters. The B, the C, the D climates have 3 letters, sometimes even 4 if there's something really special about that climate. We're not going to use 4 letters, we're just going to use 3. Tropical and polar climates don't have seasons. Hey, review. So they don't have a 3rd letter. Okay, about the Köppen climates. In fact, I'm just going to skip over to this. So this is the Köppen climate classification worksheet for our class. I'm going to put a link to it in the slides or a link to it in the video, in the body of the videos, because I really think it would help you to have it open and go through it at this time. So boilerplate, it's got the 5 climates: tropical, dry, mesothermal, microthermal, and polar. And it's a flow chart. So as you work your way through the Köppen climate classification system, you're going to ask yourself a series of questions. And the series of questions, it's always going to be in the same order. Because of the way the Köppen climate classification system is designed, it's entirely possible to end up with a climate that might meet 2 criteria, but a climate can only be 1. There can only be 1. So you have to check them in a certain order, and that order will be given. Here is that order. So the first thing you do is check to see if it's an E climate. Are all months colder than 10? If it is, then you do more work and see what kind of E climate it is. If all months aren't colder than 10 Celsius, it's not an E climate. And the next thing to check to see, is it a B climate? So if it's not an E, you check to see if it's a B climate. You have to do some math to find this threshold number to tell you how dry it is. We're not doing that this week. I thought I'd save that for next week. This week, we'll just go over the basics of the Köppen system. Next week, we'll get into the nitty-gritties of determining if it's a desert or steppe climate. So for this week, you won't need to calculate the threshold number. We'll save that for next week. So we'll just pretend that, well, none of the climates I'm going to give you are B climates, so you won't need to check that. Next question is you check to see, is it an A climate? Are all months warmer than 18 Celsius? If yes, then it's an A climate, so then you need to figure out what kind of tropical climate it is. If all months are not warmer than 18 Celsius, it's not an A climate. So then you check to see, is it a C climate? Is the hottest month warmer than 10 Celsius and the coldest month between 0 and 18? Well, if yes, it's a C climate. If no, go to step 5 and see if it's a D climate. So D climate is the warmest month above 10 and the coldest below 0. Yes, it's a D climate. If no, if you get to that step and you're all, well, no, actually, you did something wrong, go back to the E climates and start over again. So this part right here, I'm just showing you the criteria for the broad climate groups. E climates, B climates, C climates, D climates, and then E climates. So like I said, once you determine it's some sort of E climate, then you have to do more work to see what kind of E climate it is. And here's the full list. So check climates in this order. There are 5 climate groups: tropical, dry, mesothermal, continental, and polar. First letter is the general temperature. Second, the timing of rainfall. The third further describes the temperature patterns. Tropical A and polar E climates only have 2 letters because they don't have seasons. So if you check to see if a climate is an E climate. If it is an E climate, then you check to see if it's an ET. If it's not a tundra, then it's got to be an EF climate. If it's not an E, then you check to see, is it a B? If it's a B, you check first to see, is it a steppe? If it is a steppe, then you check to see, is it a hot or cold steppe? If it's not a steppe climate, you check to see, is it a desert climate? And then, is it a desert? Yes. Well, is it a hot or cold desert? If it's not an E and it's not a B, then you check to see, is it an A climate? If it's an A, then you check in this order: tropical rainforest, tropical monsoon, tropical summer dry, tropical savanna. So again, there's an order that you have to go through when you're checking the tropical climates. If it's a tropical climate, the first thing you have to check, is it a rainforest? If not, is it a monsoon? If not, summer dry. If not, it's got to be savanna. But if it's not an A climate, you check to see, is it a C climate? If it's a C climate, then you check to see, is it a Mediterranean climate? There's some math we'll have to do. If it's not Mediterranean, is it winter dry? And if it's not winter dry, then is it humid year-round? If it's humid year-round, then you go through that same process and determine, is it humid subtropical hot summer? If it's not, then you check to see, CFB, Marine West Coast mild summer. And if not, check to see is it a CFC, Marine West Coast cool summer. So this is a good opportunity again. So the first letters are the groups, E, B, A, C, D. Those are the climate groups. ET, that's the climate symbol. ET, AF, CSA, CWA, CFA. These are all the climate symbols. And then, for example, we are a CSA, that's the symbol CSA, and the climate name is Mediterranean hot summer. So on the exam, on the test, whatever the assignment, just copy that, and then paste the name directly in. In fact, I'll just make it easy. Just copy the whole thing. If it's a CSA climate, just copy the whole darn thing. CSA is the symbol, Mediterranean hot summer is the name. So if it wasn't a C, then you check to see, is it a D? And if it's a D climate, then you determine, is it a summer dry? If it is, then you check continental dry hot summer, continental dry mild summer, continental dry, continental dry summer. Yeah, there's only a handful. The D is extra special, and I'll talk about that in a bit. That I got tripped up because I saw the D. DSC, continental dry cool summer. If it's not a summer dry, then is it a DW winter dry? Then you have to go through the order DWA, DWB, DWC, DWD. If it's a DF, then DFA, DFB, DFC, DFD. If it's not a D climate, then you check, is it a polar climate? And if it's polar or all months, then you go through and check. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the end. Yeah, the last possible thing you'd come to is a DFD. So here's the criteria for the E climates and then the subclimates, right? So we're going through, we check, is it an E climate? Oh, yeah, every month is below 10. And then we're going to go here and say, well, okay, all months colder than 10? Yes. And then the second question to see if it's an ET, is the warmest month between 0 and 10? Oh, yes, then it's tundra. Is the warmest month below freezing? So no months above freezing. If the answer is yes, then it's an ice cap. B, I'll go through this next time. For next week, we'll be classifying, we'll be doing the math and classifying dry, arid, and semi-arid climates. We'll be looking at the threshold number, the dryness factor. That'll be some fun math. So if it's not an E climate, then you check to see, is it a B climate? If it's not a B climate, you check to see, is it an A climate? So if it's an A climate, all months warmer than 18 Celsius. Is that true? Yes. Then you have to see what the second letter is. So the four options for the second letter, F, M, S, and W. F, feucht, means moist or wet in German. So AF, moist or wet, is tropical rainforest. So tropical rainforest climate, all months. If all months receive more than 6 centimeters rainfall, boom, you're a rainforest. The second thing to check is it an AM, tropical monsoon? Is there a short dry season? Specifically, is the annual precip greater than 25 times 10 minus the precip of the driest month in centimeters? I'll go through an example of that in a minute. This is usually terrifying to students because it involves math. But really, annual precip is given to you, monthly precip is given, so you just have to find the driest month. 10 minus the precip of the driest month in centimeters, multiply that by 25, and then compare that to the annual precip. Much easier is the S, summer dry. So again, F is rainforest, M, monsoon, S, summer dry, W, winter dry. So if it's an AS, you just check, does the driest month get less than 6 centimeters precip? Oh, if it does, then it's an AS climate. That's an incredibly rare climate. And I'd like to point out that when you're looking at the summer doesn't mean July. Summer means the warm time of year. Winter doesn't mean December. You could have a climate station in the southern hemisphere. So when we're talking about summer, we're referring to the 6 warmest months. Winter is the 6 coldest months. And as we'll see when we do this, that's either going to be summer is April through September in the northern hemisphere, and summer is October through March in the southern hemisphere. Like I said, we'll get into that next month. But when we're talking about summer, summer's April through September in the northern hemisphere. So that's it for the tropical climates. C, So is the hottest month warmer than 10 and the coldest month between 0 and 18? If yes, then it's a C. Then you check to see the second letter. Again, S is going to be the first thing. Is the driest summer month, is it getting less than 6 centimeters of rainfall? And is that also less than 1/3 of the precip of the wettest winter month? If the answer to both of those is yes, the driest summer month gets less than 6 centimeters precip, and the precip for the driest month is less than 1/3 of the precip for the wettest month, it's some sort of CS climate. If it's not a CS, then you check, is it a CW? And that's a winter dry. The wettest summer month is 10 times wetter than the driest winter month. So you just compare them, multiply the driest month by 10, compare it to the wettest month. If it's not an S, if it's not a W, then it's some sort of CF climate with year-round precip. And regardless, after you calculate out what the second letter is, you move on to the third letter, ABC. A, hot summer is the warmest month over 22 Celsius, 22.0001. Yes, you are a hot summer. Mild summer, at least 4 months above 10 Celsius. C, the coldest month is above 38 Celsius. So those are your 3 options for the third letter for the C and D climates. If you're not a C climate, at this point, you can only be a D climate. The warmest month is over 10 Celsius. The coldest month is below 0. If it meets those criteria, it's a D climate. And then we have to figure out the second letter. It's the same criteria as the C climates to figure out the timing of the rainy season. And then the third letter, A, B, C, and D. The D climates are the only ones that have the lowercase, well, I'm sorry, that is true. It is impossible to have a C whatever D climate, right? The D means the coldest, lowercase d as the third letter, means that the coldest month is below -38. And to be a C climate, the coldest month in the winter is above freezing. So it is impossible for a C climate to be some sort of C something D. Only the D microthermal snowy forest climates can be a D, DFD, or DWD. And to be a D climate, the coldest month is below -38. So if the coldest month is below -38, it's a D something D climate, not a something C climate. If the coldest month is below 38, it's a D something D climate. And again, here's the order that you have to check the climates in. ET, EF, BS, BS, BW, BW. There's all the A climates, the C climates, all the D climates. So if the climate satisfies the criteria of both BWK and CSB, which it could, it's classified as a BWK because that climate came first in the order that we check. Okay, so that's the sheet. I'm going to recommend that you keep that out as we go through the next slides so you can play along at home. Okay, so here's the order that you check them in. Polar and highland climates. Actually, I'm just going to go through these more quickly because we just went through it. So is it a polar climate? If yes, then you got to check to see, is it a tundra or ice cap? If it's not some sort of E climate, you go to the dry climates. We're not doing that today. If it's not a dry climate, then you check to see, is it a tropical climate? Every month over 18, congrats to your tropical climate. Second letter is the length of the rainy season. F, if all months get more than 6 centimeters rainfall. M, if the annual precip is greater than 25 times 10 minus the precip of the driest month in centimeters. Like I said, we'll do an example of that in a minute. Or is it an AS climate with a summer dry season with the driest summer month receiving less than 6 centimeters precip? Or is it an AW climate with a winter dry? Yeah, I think the second letter, the S and W, easier. Summer, S, summer dry, W, winter dry. So if the driest month in the summer gets less than 6 centimeters, then it's a summer dry season. If the driest winter month gets less than 6 centimeters precip, it's an AW climate. C. So if it's not a dry climate and it's not a tropical climate, Then we're checking to see if it's a mesothermal climate. Hottest month, warmer than 10 Celsius, and the coldest month is over 10 but below 18. Second letter is the timing of the rainy season. We just went over all of this. S, summer month, the driest summer month, less than 6 centimeters precip, less than a third of the precip of the wettest winter month. W, wettest winter month, gets 10 times more rain than the driest winter month. And F, if it's not a W, well, right, so you check to see is it an S. If it's not an S, you check to see is it an S. If it's not an S, you check to see if it's a W. If it's not a W, it has to be an F. The third letter, A, B, C, hot summer, mild summer, cool summer. D climates, same dealio. If it's not a C, you check to see if it's a D. If the hottest month is warmer than 10 Celsius and the coldest month is below freezing, it's a D climate. Temperature criteria are the same, but with D, they also have the lowercase d, indicating the coldest month is below negative 38. Those climates only exist in Siberia. Oh yeah, they're only found in microthermal, and they're only found in Siberia. So there's the order again that you have to check the climates in. So the Köppen climate symbol is a 2 or 3 letter abbreviation. AF for tropical rainforest, BWH for hot desert, CSA would be Mediterranean hot summer. So those are the symbols, and then the name, like I said, the name is the descriptive name that goes along. For example, tropical rainforest, hot desert, BWH is hot desert, and then CSA is Mediterranean hot summer. TH is the dryness threshold number. We'll talk more about that next week. Not going to talk about it this week. T is the average annual temperature. You take the temperature of all the months, add them together, divide by 12 to get the average. P is the total annual precip. That's just a total. It's the sum. Average annual temp, add all months temps, then divide by 12. Temperature range is the difference in temperature between the warmest month and the coldest month. It involves math. Be careful with the Southern Hemisphere because the summer months are going to be in December. And when you're calculating temperature range, often students take the maximum temperature, let's just say 80 degrees, although it's going to be Celsius. So that would be closer to the maximum would be like 30 degrees. And let's say the coldest, let's say it's a D climate, so the coldest month has an average temperature of minus 10 Celsius. Well, if you do the math wrong, that negative is going to throw you off. So if it's 30 degrees in the summer and negative 10, the difference between 30 and negative 10 is 40. But often students will go, well, let's see, there's 30 and minus 10 because it's negative 10. The temperature range is 20 degrees, which is wrong. So be extra careful when calculating the temperature range with with negative temperatures in the winter. So let's do an example. Here's the data that you will be given. Average temperature in degrees Celsius and precip in centimeters. 2.5 centimeters per inch. So the first step, is it a polar climate? Is every month colder than 10? No. Is it a B climate? Yeah, we're not doing that this week, so I'm just going to say, no, I'm not going to give you a dry climate this week. Is it an A climate? Is every month over 18 Celsius? Let's see, 26, 26, 27, 27, 26, 26, 27, 27, 27, 26. Yes, every month is over 18 Celsius. So it's an A climate. And the second letter tells us about the precip regime or rainfall pattern or timing of the rainy season. So here's our choices. F, are all months getting more than 6 centimeters? Or if not, then we have to check, is it a monsoon? Is the annual precip greater than 25 times 10 minus the precip of the driest month? And then if it's not an F and it's not an M, we have to check, is it an S? If it's not an S, we check if it's a W. So this is the part where I say, make sure you have your classification chart handy as we look. So first question, AF, it's rainy AF. Nope. 4.3 centimeters in August, it's not an AF. All months more than 6 centimeters? Nope. So M is annual precip greater than 25 times 10 minus the precip of the driest month in centimeters. So here we've got the average temperature. This is the total annual rainfall, 181 inches. The math for this then is 181.6 greater than 25 times 10 times the precip of the driest month. The precip of the driest month is 4.3, so 10 minus 4.3 is 5.7. 5.7 times 25 is 142. 181 is indeed greater, so it's an AM climate. Yes and yes, so it's an AM is the symbol, tropical monsoon is the climate name. All right, that was good fun. If it wasn't an AM, then we'd check to see, is it a summer dry season? And actually, I would be hard-pressed to say, because September, October, November, December, January, February, March, or April, May, June, July, August, September. So yeah, I suppose you could calculate out the average temperature of April through September, and then the average temperature October through March. But it doesn't matter because it was an AM climate, so we don't need to go through that. But if it wasn't an AM, that's what we do. We'd have to look, and hopefully I will give you a climate station. I mean, this is totally tropical, so there is no winter. I mean, that's the deal with being in the tropics, is they don't really have extreme seasons. They don't have big seasons. Anyway, let's do something, hopefully it will be less frightening. Example number 2. So is it a polar climate? Is every month below 10 Celsius? No. Is it a dry climate? Not this month, or not this week. Is it a tropical climate? Is every month over 18 Celsius? Heck no. December's 3.3. Is it a sea climate? And let's see. So is the coldest winter month? Do we have 3 months over 10? Yeah, we've got a warm summer, and we have a winter that is above freezing. So then the next question is, we know it's some sort of sea mesothermal climate because of the temperature criteria. Next up, second letter tells us the rainfall. So our options: summer dry, driest summer month receives less than 6 centimeters precip, and also less than 1/3 the precip of the wettest winter month. It could be winter dry with the wettest summer month 10 times rainier than the driest winter month, or it could be a CF climate with year-round precip if it doesn't meet the criteria to be a CS or CW climate. So the second letter, rainfall, summer dry. The driest summer month receives less than 6 centimeters precip. It looks like they have 2 months that get nothing. So 0 is less than 6, and 0 is less than 1/3 of the wettest winter month, which looks like January with 5.6 centimeters. So it's some sort of CS climate. It's a CS mesothermal summer dry climate. The third letter tells us more about the temperature. Here's the 3 options for C climates: A, hot summer over 22, mild summer 4 months over 10 Celsius, or C, coldest month above -38. So is the warmest month over 22? Heck yeah! The warmest month is 28.3. So it is a CSA mesothermal climate. CSA would be the symbol. CSA is the symbol. Mediterranean hot summer is the climate name. Congratulations, that's 2. And in fact, that's it for this video on how to use the Köppen climate classification system. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it amusing, entertaining. It's just a logic problem once you get down to it. If you have questions, I hope you show up at Zoom and ask me, and good luck.